Funny, isn't it? A man can live his whole life chasing money. And somehow money never stays. It comes in, it goes out. Like trying to hold water in cupped hands. And you tell yourself, maybe I just need more. A little more money. A better job. A second stream. But nothing changes. Not really, because the problem isn't outside of you. The problem is the hands you're holding it with. The problem is how you think. Money doesn't stay with people who think like you. And I don't say that to insult you. I say it because no one else ever will. They'll blame the economy. They'll blame your boss. They'll blame bad luck, your parents. The system. But you know what never gets questioned? The way you think about money. The way you see it. The way you treat it. The way you expect it to behave in your life. And that's where it begins. Quietly. Silently. Day after day. You wake up. Go to work. Collect your paycheck. And still feel like something's slipping away. Not just money. But power. Control. Peace of mind. Because it doesn't matter how much you earn. If your thinking is built like a sieve, you could pour gold through it. And still end up broke. No one ever told you that, did they? They told you to work hard. To get a degree. To save a little. They told you if you just do the right things, life will reward you. But life doesn't reward what you do. It rewards how you think. You see, money has a strange nature. It doesn't stay where it's not respected. It doesn't stay where it's not understood. And it never stays with someone who secretly resents. That's the part most people miss. You say you want more money, but deep down you feel guilty about it. You want to grow rich, but part of you believes rich people are greedy. You work harder, but something inside whispers, I don't deserve this. And that whisper becomes your truth. It's like trying to hold a bird in your hands, while secretly hating birds. No matter how gently you try to hold it, it will sense your energy, and it will fly away. So will money. It's not magic. It's not superstition. It's alignment. And until your thoughts align with the weight of wealth, you will keep dropping it, mismanaging it, pushing it away, even as you say you want it. Because here's the truth no one tells you. You don't get to keep money just because you worked for it. You keep it because you became the kind of person it wants to stay with. And becoming that person. That's not a course. That's not a weekend seminar. It's a rewiring. It's a slow, painful, beautiful unraveling of everything you were taught about what money means. Let me ask you something. When you think about money, what do you feel? Is it safety? Or is it pressure? Is it joy? Or is it fear? Maybe even shame? Most people walk around thinking money is neutral, just numbers. But they're wrong. Money reacts to your energy. You can tell yourself you want it all day long. But if your inner world tells a different story, if you've been trained to believe it's hard to get, hard to keep, and dangerous to have, then your hands will never hold it for long. No matter how hard you try, you'll spend it fast. You'll give it away too easily. You'll undercharge. You'll overwork. You'll sabotage the very thing you said you wanted. And then you'll tell yourself, I guess I just wasn't lucky like them. But it was never luck. It was never luck. It was the way they thought. And the way you didn single quotes d.c. Most people don't even realize they were taught to push money away. Not directly, but subtly. Over time. Little things. The way your parents talked about bills. The tone they used when they said, we can't afford that. The way your teacher mocked the rich. The way movies made money look evil. and you absorbed it all. Without even knowing it. You inherited a mindset that rejects the very thing you're trying to attract. It's not your fault. But it is your responsibility now. Because until you change how you think, you'll keep living the same story in different clothes, new job, same fear, higher income, still broke, more effort, less peace, and you'll keep asking, why won't money stay? But the answer has been sitting in your pocket the whole time. Money doesn't stay with people who think like you. Not until you start thinking differently. And it starts, my friend, by looking closely at the story playing in your head. The story you've repeated so long, you forgot it was just a story. Let's talk about that. So let's go back to that story, not the one you tell others. Not the one you post online. The real one, the one that's been whispering behind your thoughts since you were small. The story that tells you what money is. Because money, you see, it's not just coins and bills. It's not just numbers in an account. Money is a symbol, a comb, reflection. It mirrors the story you carry inside. And most people, they don't carry a healthy story. They carry a wounded one, passed down like an old suitcase, full of fear, silence, and shame. Nobody talks about it. But it's there, heavy, hidden, and it follows them wherever they go. You probably didn't write this story, but you're living in it. And the danger of a story like that is that it becomes invisible. You start thinking it's the truth. You stop questioning it. You accept it as just the way life is. But let me ask you, where did your story come from? Who taught you what money means? Who showed you how to treat it? How to feel about it? How to speak around it? Think back. Was money talked about in your home? Or was it always avoided, like something dirty? When a bill came in the mail, did your father sigh? Did your mother lower her voice? Did you see stress on their faces every time the topic came up? These things, they matter. Not just in memory, but in wiring. Because the nervous system learns before the mind understands. It remembers the tension in the room, the arguments behind closed doors, the fear that seeped into dinner conversations. And it learns, money causes pain. Money makes people angry. Money is never enough. That's where your story began. Not in adulthood, not in your bank account, but in childhood. In the air you breathed. And now, years later, you still carry it. Maybe not in your words, but in your habits. You don't feel safe keeping money, so you spend it too fast. You don't believe you're worthy of abundance, so you underprice your work. You think money is for other people, so you keep yourself small. And yet, you work hard. You show up. You do your best, but money doesn't respond to effort alone. It responds to alignment. You can hustle 16 hours a day, but if your inner world says, I'm not meant to have more, then more will never stay. It will come and go, like a stranger passing through town. Because money only settles where it's welcomed, where it's respected, where it's understood. But how can you welcome something you secretly fear? How can you respect something you were taught to resent? How can you understand something that was never spoken about honestly? This is the real work, my friend. Not budgeting, not earning more, but going back and gently rewriting the story. Not with blame, not with bitterness. But with awareness. Because until you see the old story, you'll keep repeating it, thinking it's reality, and money will keep slipping through your hands. Not because you're cursed, not because you're lazy, but because you're living by a script that was never truly yours. It's like a song playing in the background of your life, quiet, familiar, unquestioned. But if you sit still long enough, if you really listen, you'll start to hear the words, and they won't sound like truth. They'll sound like pain. You'll hear echoes like, "We're not rich people. Money doesn't grow on trees. People like us don't live." Like that. And when you hear them, don't be angry, be curious, because that's the moment your power returns. When you realize you can pause the song. You can change the lyrics. You can write a new score. One that speaks of sufficiency. One that trusts in value. One that says, "I am safe to receive. I am worthy to keep. I am ready to grow." But it doesn't start in your wallet. It starts in your beliefs. And those don't change overnight. They change with attention, with care, with honesty. And most of all, with choice. Because the story you inherited, that's not the one you have to pass on. You can be the one who breaks the cycle. You can be the one who finally sees what no one before you dared to look at. You can be the one who rewrites what money means. But it starts right here, right now. With the story in your head and the courage to question it. It's not the big decisions that drain you. It's the little ones, the quiet ones, the ones you don't even realize you're making. Like saying yes when you mean no. Like buying something you don't need, just to feel something. Like undercharging for your work because asking for more makes your chest tighten. That's how it leaks. Not with a flood, but a slow drip. You don't even feel it at first, just notice you're always a little behind. Always catching up. Always waiting for the next check, the next raise, the next miracle. And when it comes, you breathe. But not for long, because somewhere deep down, you don't believe it's meant to stay. You've been trained, quietly, to expect lack. So when abundance shows up, your mind doesn't know what to do with it. It spends it. It avoids it. It gives it away too easily, not out of generosity, but out of guilt. There's a difference. Real generosity comes from fullness. But what most people call generosity is just discomfort with having more than others. So they shed it. Like a man with a heavy coat in summer. They throw it off, fast, before someone notices. Because the heart can't hold what the mind believes it doesn't deserve, and that belief? It shows up everywhere. You ask for less than you're worth. You stay in jobs that drain you. You feel awkward raising your prices. You joke about being broke as if it makes you humble. But there's nothing noble about scarcity. There's nothing wise about keeping yourself small. You were not born to struggle for every dollar. You were not made to survive on scraps. But somewhere along the way, you started believing that suffering was safer than success. That struggle was more familiar than peace. That if you ever got ahead, someone would take it from you. Or worse, you'd lose it and prove them right. So you stay just below the surface. Not drowning, not rising. Just treading water. It's quiet there, familiar, safe. In a way, but it's not living. It's surviving. And surviving is not what you came here to do. But money doesn't stay with people who are still trying to survive it. It stays with people who've made peace with it. With people who no longer fear it or worship it. With people who treat it like a friend, not a threat. Let me ask you something. When money comes in, what's the first emotion that follows? Relief? Anxiety? Urgency to spend? A thought like, I better enjoy this before it disappears? Those reactions, they're not random. They're patterns that were built from old emotions. From old stories. From a lifetime of watching money come and go without understanding why. So you tell yourself you're bad with money. You joke that you've never been good at saving. You say, I'm just not the kind of person who holds on to wealth. But that's not true. You weren't born with those habits. You weren't born careless or afraid. You learned that. And anything learned can be UNLEARNED. First, you have to stop defending the version of you that's always broke. Because that version, the one who laughs it off, the one who shrinks when opportunity knocks, the one who feels safer just getting by, that version is scared, not evil. Not lazy, just scared. Scared of being seen. Scared of being judged. Scared of holding something beautiful and losing it again. And fear will spend what love would. Protect. So you keep going in circles. You fix one hole and another opens. You try budgeting, but your nervous system rebels. You try saving, but your identity whispers, this isn't who we are. And the moment more money comes in, your habits go to work. Not because you're foolish, but because your mind is still living in the past, still reacting to what money used to mean, back when it was scarce, back when it was a weapon, back when it came with pressure, shame, or silence. So now, even when money is available, you don't feel free. And that's the trap, because freedom doesn't come from money. It comes from the relationship you have with money. And if that relationship is built on fear, guilt, or self-sabotage, it doesn't matter how much you make. You'll always lose it, not all at once. Just enough to stay stuck. Just enough to keep you wondering what you're doing wrong. Even when you're doing everything right. It's a hard truth. But sometimes, the hardest truths are the ones that set you free. Let me ask you something you may have never been asked before. Who would you betray if you got rich? Who, in your life, in your story, in your memory, would feel left behind if you suddenly had more than enough? You see, we don't just fear money because it's powerful. We fear it because it separates. It separates us from who we used to be, from the people we grew up with, from the stories we told ourselves to survive. You may not realize it yet, but part of you is loyal to struggle because it connects you. To your father who worked 3 jobs and never had enough, to your mother who clipped coupons and said, "We'll be okay," to your cousins, your neighbors, your community, who all wore their lack like a badge of honor. And now, if you grow beyond that, what happens? You risk being misunderstood. You risk being envied. You risk being different. And different feels dangerous. So you stay close to the version of yourself that's familiar. Not because it serves you, but because it feels like home. Even if home was hard. Even if home was broke. There's something sacred about where you come from. And somewhere inside, you feel like choosing wealth means turning your back on it. So you don't. Not fully. Not deeply. Not in a way that allows wealth to actually stay. You earn more, but you stay emotionally loyal to the people who never could. You play small, so no one feels small around you. You keep struggling, because that's how love was expressed in your world. Shared pain. Shared survival. Shared, we're in this together, and there's beauty in that. There really is. But let me tell you something most people never hear. You don't have to stay broke to stay connected. You don't have to reject prosperity to honor your past. Your father's exhaustion wasn't sacred. Your mother's anxiety wasn't wisdom. They did the best they could with what they knew. But you know more now. And the greatest way to honor their sacrifice is not by repeating it. It's by healing what they didn't have the tools to heal. It's by growing in ways they never got to. It's by saying, "You got me this far, I'll take us further." But that requires breaking an old agreement, an unspoken vow to never rise too high, to never shine too brightly, to never earn so much that you feel guilty enjoying it, because guilt is powerful, more powerful than logic, more powerful than effort. Guilt will make you spend what you meant to save, give away what you plan to invest, burn down what you built, just so. You don't feel alone in your becoming, but you're not alone. You're just evolving. And if the people around you love you, truly love you, they'll adjust. They'll grow too. Or they'll fall away. And that's okay, because you weren't meant to stay in the same shape forever. You weren't meant to carry everyone's struggle as your own. And wealth, real wealth, isn't about leaving people behind. It's about lifting what came before you. But you can't lift anyone if you keep sinking yourself. You can't heal your family's story by repeating it. You heal it by becoming the proof that change is possible. Even if that means being misunderstood for a while. Even if that means walking alone. Until you find those who understand, and you will. There are others who broke the same cycle. Others who know the guilt, the resistance, the ache of stepping into more. You're not strange. You're just waking up to the fact that you've been carrying more than your share. Waking up to the truth that it's not disloyal to outgrow survival. It's necessary. So ask yourself gently, am I staying broke because I'm afraid of what it would mean to become wealthy? Am I playing small so no one around me feels threatened? Am I quietly loyal to the pain of my past, more than the promise of my future? These aren't easy questions, but they're honest. And honesty, that's the beginning of freedom, because once you see it, once you really see the story beneath your struggle, you can make a different choice, not from rebellion, not from ego, but from clarity. And clarity is what wealth needs in order to stay. Not chaos, not guilt, not confusion. Clarity, a clear sense of who you are, a clear permission to grow, a clear knowing that becoming more does not make you less of who you were. It simply means the story is changing, and maybe that's what money was waiting for all along. Poverty isn't just a number. It's not a lack of income, or savings, or possessions. Poverty is a rhythm. It's a way of moving through the world. A beat you follow without realizing. Wake, worry, work, repeat. You don't choose it, not at first. You inherit it, like a song that's always playing in the background, and the danger is it starts to feel normal. You rush through your mornings. You survive your days. You quiet your hunger with quick pleasure, a treat, a distraction, a small escape. And then it's night again. Bills on the table. Mind full. Heart tired. And you tell yourself, tomorrow I'll be better with money. But tomorrow plays the same rhythm, because the rhythm doesn't change on its own. It's not about how hard you work. Most poor people work hard, sometimes harder than the rich ever will. It's about what you repeat without thinking. And that's what rhythm is, repetition. So ask yourself, what are you repeating? Are you repeating panic every time a bill comes in? Are you repeating silence when an opportunity to ask for more arrives? Are you repeating the habit of spending what you don't yet have, because your nervous system only feels safe when your account is empty? These are patterns. They don't just waste money. They chase it away, because money, like anything alive, responds to the environment it enters. And if your life is full of tension, chaos, disorder, money doesn't feel safe there. Not for long. It might visit, but it won't stay. And here's The part that stings a little, sometimes you unconsciously recreate that tension. Because calm feels unfamiliar, peace feels suspicious. Order feels boring. So you stir the pot. You create a little crisis. You spend something you didn't need to. You delay a bill until it becomes urgent. Why? Because struggle has rhythm. And you've learned to dance to it. It's not your fault. It's how survival works. When your nervous system grows up in stress, calm feels like danger. When your body is used to scarcity, abundance feels overwhelming. So even when more money comes in, you subconsciously do what it takes to return to what feels familiar. And what's familiar? Anxiety, pressure, not quite enough. So you live there. Not because it's what you want, but because it's the only rhythm you've known. That's why budgeting apps don't work by themselves. That's why more income doesn't solve the problem. That's why discipline fades after a few weeks. Because you're trying to force a new result on top of an old rhythm. And until the rhythm changes, everything else is temporary. But the good news, rhythm can be relearned. You don't have to keep dancing to the beat of fear. You don't have to wake up every day bracing for the next emergency. You can shift your rhythm slowly, quietly, with small choices like pausing before a purchase, like writing down what money makes you feel, honestly, like paying one bill early, just to show your body that control is possible. You don't need a dramatic transformation. You need a new tempo, a slower, steadier beat. One that feels awkward at first, but eventually becomes your new normal. And when that rhythm settles into your bones, money notices. Because now you feel safe to hold it. Now you're no longer chasing or rejecting it. You're just ready. And that readiness is rare. Most people are still dancing to fear. Still rushing, still grasping, still reacting. You're learning to respond. To breathe, to make space, to let money be a partner, not a storm. It won't happen in a day, but it begins at a moment. Right now, with the rhythm of your thoughts, the pace of your actions, the story you tell yourself when the world gets quiet. And maybe that's what money has been waiting for all along. Not a new income, not a new job, just a new rhythm. Here's something people don't talk about enough. You can only receive what you believe you are, not what you say you want, not what you dream about at night, but what you see when you look in the mirror of your mind. Because money doesn't just follow skill, it follows identity. You'll never out-earn your self-image. You might rise above it for a little while, but if the person inside doesn't match the money outside, the money won't stay. It'll leave. Or you'll spend it or sabotage it, not because you're foolish, but because part of you will feel like an imposter. And when you feel like an imposter, you start trying to get rid of whatever proves you're not really that person. So you let it go. Give discounts you didn't need to. You buy things you didn't really want. You make decisions that shrink you back down to the size you're used to. Why? Because no one told you wealth is first a question of identity, not income. You've been trained to believe it's about numbers. But I'll tell you the truth I've watched for decades. People don't manage money. They manage their sense of self. And money simply follows. If you see yourself as someone who's always behind, then even when you're ahead, your actions will bring you back into alignment. If you see yourself as someone who can't be trusted with money, you'll prove it quietly through disorganization, forgetfulness, self-neglect. If you see yourself as someone who doesn't deserve to earn more than their parents did, you'll unconsciously cap your growth at a level that keeps you comfortable, but never free. And the worst part? You'll call it being realistic. You'll say, this is just how I am. You'll make peace with a version of yourself that was built by fear, then wonder why life never expands, but that version isn't who you are. It's who you became to survive. And maybe that was necessary back then. Maybe you needed to shrink, to stay small, to stay safe, but you're not back then. You're here, now. And the identity that once protected you is now the cage that's keeping your wealth out. Money can't stay with someone who's always trying to prove they don't deserve it. It needs a place to rest, a place that feels worthy, a place that feels stable, not just financially, but emotionally. So the question isn't just, how do I make more? The real question is, who do I think I am when money is with me? Do you see yourself as someone who carries wealth with peace, or someone who fumbles it with guilt? Do you see yourself as a steward or an imposter, a partner to money or a stranger to it? It's not about arrogance. It's not about ego. It's about wholeness. Because when your self-image is fractured, you will always spend to fix what's missing inside. You'll buy things to feel valuable. You'll give money away to feel loved. You'll chase more just to feel like enough, but enough was never in the money. It was always in you. And until you believe that, every dollar you earn will feel too heavy to hold. Not because you're broken, but because your hands were shaped by stories that said, not for you, not yet. Be grateful for what little you have. And those stories, they still live inside your reflection. But you can change that. Not by pretending, not by forcing confidence, but by seeing yourself clearly as someone who's learning, growing, becoming, someone who is no longer at war with receiving, someone who no longer apologizes for having, someone who can finally say, I am not what I inherited. I am what I choose to become. That shift, that moment, is when the mirror changes. And when the mirror changes, money finally finds someone it can stay with. Not because they're perfect, but because they're aligned. Money doesn't just come to the smart, or the skilled, or the educated. It comes to the steady. To the ones who've learned how to hold it, not just in their hands, but in their energy. See, people think money is neutral, that it's just a tool, that it doesn't care who you are. But I've watched long enough to know, money may not judge you, but it feels you. It feels your fear. It feels your chaos. It feels your resistance. It feels whether you see it as a guest or a threat. Because when money enters a room, it doesn't ask for a budget. It looks for peace. And if there's none, it quietly walks away. Now I don't say that to shame you. This isn't about blame. It's about awareness. Because most people don't realize they're chasing money with the same energy that repels it. Anxiety, scarcity, panic, desperation. And money, like any energy, is sensitive to desperation. Know it in your own life. Ever been around someone who needed you too much? Clung to you? Expected you to solve everything? You pulled back, didn't you? Not out of cruelty, but out of discomfort. That's how money reacts too when you grip it too tight, it slips. When you chase it too hard, it hides. When you worship it, it loses its meaning. And when you ignore it, it loses its trust. That's what people miss. They think money is a thing, but it behaves more like a relationship. It wants to feel safe with you, not idolized, not feared, not used to fill your emotional holes. Safe. Think about this. How do you talk about money when no one's listening? Do you curse it under your breath? Mock the people who have it? Blame it for your stress? If someone spoke about you that way, would you want to stay? That's what I mean by energy. Money doesn't just stay where it's managed well. It stays where it's welcomed well. That doesn't mean worship. It means respect. It means presence. It means you've cleaned up the parts of you that once made money feel unsafe. The part that overspends to be seen. The part that undercharges to be liked. The part that avoids looking at your bank account because you're afraid of what it might say. Money feels all of that. Not just in numbers, but in posture. You can feel the difference between a person who owns their life and one who's still asking permission to be okay. Money can too. So let me ask you, what energy do you bring to your money? Is it fear? Is it frustration? Is it shame? Or is it clarity? Calm? Compassion? Because until your energy is clean, your account will never be. You'll always be reacting, always managing crisis, always blaming the world, or worse, yourself. But when you clear the static inside, the numbers outside follow. Because money doesn't fix your energy. Your energy shapes your money. This is why some people earn 10 times more than you and still feel broke. Because wealth isn't just measured in dollars. It's measured in peace. Peace with your decisions. Peace with your patterns. Peace with your past. That's the energy that money likes. It wants to sit with someone who doesn't flinch, who doesn't beg, who doesn't shrink in its presence. Someone who says, I'm not afraid of you. I'm not addicted to you. I'm just ready for you. That's the posture that holds wealth, not perfectly, not forever, but long enough to build something real. So if you're wondering why money never stays, ask yourself, what energy meets it at the door? Because if it's chaos, money will keep walking. But if it's calm, if it's care, if it's quiet, grounded strength, then money will know it's found a home. Before the money ever comes, you've already made up your mind what to do with it. And most of the time, you're planning how to get rid of it. Not on purpose, not consciously, but it's there. You're waiting for it to come, so you can spend it, so you can prove something, so you can stop feeling behind. The paycheck hits, and the mind goes, what can I buy? What can I fix? What can I finally escape? And like that, it's gone. See, the way most people handle money is not from vision. It's from relief. They want the pain to go away, the pressure, the feeling of never having enough. So the moment money shows up, they send it away like a soldier to war. Go fix that bill. Go fix that emptiness. Go fix my image. But money was never meant to be your fixer. It was meant to be your foundation. And when you send your foundation away every month, what do you expect to stand on? You've been trained, quietly over years, to see money as a short-term escape, not a long-term partner. It starts early. You watch your parents panic at the end of the month. You watch them hide receipts, stretch pennies, argue in whispers. You hear things like, money's tight. We can't afford that. Maybe when we win the lottery. And it plants something in you. The belief that money leaves, that it never stays, that it always slips, that it only comes to help you survive. So what do you do when you grow up? You recreate that rhythm. You earn, then empty. Earn, then empty. Earn, then empty. It feels normal. It feels familiar. And that's the problem, because you never learned how to hold it. You only learned how to release it, quickly, quietly, like it doesn't belong. Even when you want to save, something feels wrong, like you're being selfish, or boring, or too careful. You try to invest, but your hands shake. You hear that old voice again. What if it's all gone tomorrow? So you sabotage. You spend what you swore you'd keep. You give away what you can't afford to. You chase pleasure to numb the pressure. But none of this is about logic. It's about wiring. You've been conditioned to lose money. Not by one person, by a culture. A culture that sells fantasy, sells speed, sells the lie that looking rich is the same as being rich. So here you are, trying to feel powerful, with nothing in the account to prove it. But I'll tell you something hard. If you keep losing what you earn, you're not unlucky, you're trained. That's the bad news. But here's the good news. You can untrain it. You can build new muscles, new habits, new rhythms. But first, you have to see the pattern. You have to admit, I don't know how to hold wealth yet. That kind of honesty will save you. Because from there, you can begin again. You can build a mind that doesn't flinch around savings. You can create systems that protect your future. You can learn to breathe when your account grows, not panic. Because some people are more afraid of having money than losing it. Why? Because having it means you're responsible, you're visible. You can no longer blame the world. That's a deep shift. When you have money, you face yourself, and most people aren't ready for that. So they spend, they avoid, they repeat the story. I'm just bad with money. I can't get ahead. Life's too expensive. But it's not life. It's your training. The good news? Training can be rewired. Not overnight, not in a weekend. But in time, you can teach yourself to hold before you spend. To pause before you decide. To choose with vision, not emotion. Because the truth is, money won't stay until you make room for it. Not in your wallet, in your ways. There's something no one says out loud, but you feel it in your bones. You've been pushing, working, trying to get ahead, but deep down, you don't feel like you belong at the top. Not really. You might dream of wealth, but when it comes close, you fumble it, you doubt it, you spend it too fast. You shrink back into struggle like it's home, because there's a quiet belief sitting underneath your effort, a belief about who you are. And money, my friend, only stays with people who feel safe having it. That's the part they don't teach you. They'll teach you how to earn, how to invest, how to budget. But no one teaches you how to receive, how to sit still with abundance, how to breathe without guilt when you're doing well, how to stop apologizing for not being broke anymore. You want to know why money keeps slipping through your hands? It's not always discipline. It's not always math. It's identity. If you were raised in scarcity, if you were taught that struggle is noble, that wealth is for them, that being rich means you must have cheated or changed, then a part of you will always feel like money is foreign. Like you're an outsider trying to play a game that isn't yours. And what do outsiders do? They watch, they copy, they try to blend in. But they never truly own the space. So you might get money, but you won't hold it. You'll build some success, then burn it down. You'll save up for months, then sabotage it in a single weekend. Why? Because your inner story says, this isn't who I am. I'm not the kind of person who has money. This feels too big, too much, too different. And identity always wins. Always. You won't rise above the image you hold of yourself. You'll just circle it, year after year. Until something shifts. And that shift isn't about hustle. It's about healing. You have to go back to the moment someone made you feel small. Back to the words that said you'd never be like them. Back to the feeling that wealth was dangerous, or lonely, or fake. And you have to ask, is that really mine to carry? Because if you want money to stay, you have to build a home for it, not just a bank account, a mindset, an identity, a new emotional baseline. You have to become the kind of person who says, yes, I belong here. Yes, I can be trusted with more. Yes, I know what to do with it. And no, that doesn't mean arrogance. It means ownership, the quiet, grounded kind. The kind that doesn't need to prove anything. The kind that doesn't fear being seen as too much. Because the truth is, many people fear wealth not because of what it brings, but because of who they'd have to become to hold it. Strong, clear, unapologetic. That's a shift. You don't get to keep wealth if you still see yourself as someone who loses it. So the work is inward now. Not just strategy, but self-concept. Not just goals, but identity. Who are you becoming as your money grows? That's the question. Because money is a mirror. It shows you what you believe. It reflects what you allow. It magnifies what you think you deserve. And if you still think you deserve struggle, no amount of money will change that. It'll come and go like wind through an open door, until you finally close it. Until you say, I am allowed to be well. I am allowed to live with margin. I am allowed to thrive without guilt. That's when the shift happens. That's when money finds a place to stay. Funny thing about all this, you came looking for answers about money. And yet, now that we've walked this far together, you're beginning to see it was never just about the money, it was about you. Your story, your habits, your hidden wounds, your quiet beliefs, carried for years like truth. People think poverty is a paycheck, or a lack of talent, or bad timing, but often, poverty is rhythm. It's inherited, it's patterned, it's rehearsed. You don't mean to repeat it, but it's familiar. And familiar feels safe, even when it hurts. You work hard, but deep down, you're surviving on scripts. Old scripts. Passed down through families, neighborhoods, cultures. Scripts that say things like, don't ask for too much. Money changes people. Better safe than sorry. At least we're not greedy. But those words didn't keep you safe. They kept you small. They didn't make you noble. They made you exhausted. You've been carrying other people's fears in your wallet, calling them yours, living under ceilings you never questioned. But now, you're starting to see money is not just something you earn. It's something you learn to keep, and keeping it isn't about luck or even knowledge. It's about alignment. It's when your identity matches your income, when your habits match your hopes, when your inner story no longer sabotages your outer results. That's when money begins to stay. And here's the truth. No one told you. You can't out-earn a mindset that rejects wealth. You can't outwork a belief that fears abundance. You can't out-hustle a story that says you're not enough. That's why people stay poor, even when they make more. That's why money slips through the fingers of those who still feel unworthy. And that's why this whole time, I haven't told you how to get rich. I've been helping you remember something deep, something quiet, something you forgot along the way, that you are allowed to be well, that you are allowed to break the pattern, that you are allowed to stop surviving and start receiving, and that money, real, lasting, staying money, comes to those who stop chasing it like a stranger and start becoming someone it recognizes, someone with a solid rhythm, a quiet strength, a life that has room to receive. Because the goal was never just wealth. It was freedom, peace, space to breathe. A life that doesn't depend on the next paycheck to feel safe. That's the real richness. And if that's what you want, don't just change your budget, change your beliefs. Change your patterns. Change the story that taught you to be broke. And remember, it's not your boss. It's not the economy. It's not your parents. It's your rhythm. Change that. And money won't just visit. It'll stay. Now go quietly. Go kindly, but go, because your old life, the one that barely held on, won't follow you into this next chapter, and that's a good thing.